FIFA has created a ball so advanced that it can detect even the smallest contact, almost like it can sense a single strand of human hair brushing against its surface. In fact, that exact thing happened earlier in this tournament when a goal was ruled out because the ball had barely touched a player's hair. So explain this to me. How can that same unbelievable technology watch a World Cup quarterfinal during a moment where millions of people around the world believed they saw something happen right in front of them and somehow decide that nothing happened at all? Norway are heading home. England are moving into the semi-finals, and the reason behind it has everyone asking the same uncomfortable questions. Does VAR actually make football fair, or does FIFA simply decide when and where to use it, depending on the situation? Let's break it down. First of all, this match deserves credit because it was an incredible football game. It should not be remembered only because of the controversy. The quality, the drama, and the intensity were all there. The conditions were brutal. This was played in the kind of Miami heat that feels almost impossible to survive. The temperature at kickoff was around 113 degrees Fahrenheit when you factor in the humidity. It was a physical battle as much as it was a technical one. And for large parts of the match, Norway were actually the better team. Andreas Schjelderup opened the scoring in the 36th minute with a beautiful strike that flew past Jordan Pickford at his near post. The Norwegian supporters inside the stadium immediately started singing that England were going home. They believed this was their moment. Erling Haaland and Martin Ødegaard were controlling the game. Norway, playing in their first ever World Cup quarter-final, were just 45 minutes away from reaching the semi-finals of a tournament nobody expected them to challenge in. Then, as he has done throughout this entire summer, Jude Bellingham stepped forward. Deep into first-half stoppage time, Bellingham received a pass from Anthony Gordon, drove into the penalty area and calmly finished across the goalkeeper to bring England level. It was a fantastic goal, but it also became the moment that created one of the biggest debates of the tournament. Because the argument was never really about Bellingham's finish. The controversy was about what happened several seconds earlier, around 30 yards away, before the ball even reached him. And that is where this entire debate begins. The second half belonged mostly to Norway. They controlled possession, created chances, and pushed England backwards. Ødegaard was pulling the strings in midfield. Christopher Ajer smashed an effort against the crossbar. A Bukayo Saka cross nearly ended up in his own net before England scrambled it away. But Norway could not find the goal that would have changed everything. Then, early in extra time, Bellingham appeared again. A shot from substitute Morgan Rogers was spilled by goalkeeper Ørjan Nyland, and Bellingham reacted quickest, smashing the rebound into the net to give England the lead. That goal was his 6th of this World Cup, and his 7th overall in World Cup competition history, putting him ahead of England legend Geoff Hurst in the record books at just 23 years old. Norway threw everything forward after that. Even Haaland was taken off midway through extra time as they searched desperately for an equaliser. But England survived. 2-1, a semi-final place secured. And before we move on, Bellingham deserves his own moment because what he has done at this tournament has been extraordinary. 2 goals against Norway means he now has multiple goals in 2 separate knockout matches at the same World Cup. No English player had ever achieved that before. He has matched England's record for goals in a single World Cup campaign, a mark previously held by legends like Gary Lineker and Harry Kane. He has collected so many Player of the Match awards that it feels like he might need extra luggage just to take them all home. This World Cup has slowly become the story of the Kane and Bellingham partnership, but more and more it is becoming the story of Bellingham himself. A 23-year-old player who keeps stepping up when his team is under the most pressure and delivering in the biggest moments. Nothing that comes next takes away from that. His finishing was world-class, his mentality was incredible. The debate is not whether Jude Bellingham is a great player. The debate is about everything that happened before the ball reached him. From a football perspective, England found a way to win. But there were 2 moments that made Norway feel like the result had slipped away from them. And both deserve a closer look. Let's start with the biggest controversy, the equaliser. Just before Bellingham scored, goalkeeper Ørjan Nyland sent a long clearance upfield. But as the ball travelled through the air, something looked strange. It appeared to slow down suddenly and drop almost straight downward before landing awkwardly in front of England's Elliot Anderson, and that moment immediately raised questions. Norway's argument was simple. They believed the ball had touched one of the cables connected to the robotic camera system above the pitch. Nyland pointed toward the sky immediately after the goal. Haaland did the same. Coach Ståle Solbakken also protested, going directly toward referee Clement Turpin at halftime to explain his concerns. Norway's assistant coach was even more direct, saying the referee should have recognized what happened. And under the official laws of football, this matters. If the ball makes contact with an outside object, such as a camera cable, that counts as outside interference. The referee should stop play and restart with a dropped ball, meaning the goal would not have stood. So if the ball really did hit that cable, England's equaliser should never have happened. FIFA, however, responded quickly and confidently. Their explanation was that the sensor inside the official match ball showed no unusual signal, no sudden spike, and no evidence that the ball touched anything while it was in the air. And this is where the situation becomes so difficult to understand. Because the same technology being used to defend this decision is famous for being incredibly sensitive. Earlier in this tournament, a goal was cancelled because the ball detected contact with a player's hair. A single strand. England manager Thomas Tuchel even referenced that example, pointing out how advanced the technology is. So the question naturally became, how can a sensor sensitive enough to notice a tiny touch from a strand of hair fail to detect a ball hitting a large camera cable? There are only two possibilities. Either the ball genuinely never touched the wire, and everyone who thought they saw it was mistaken, or the technology has limitations and simply cannot detect every possible type of contact. Some analysts suggested the tracking system may not cover objects positioned high above the field, meaning the technology could have a blind spot exactly where this incident occurred. FIFA insists that all 16 antennas installed around the stadium were active and that the camera footage showed no obvious movement from the cable. But Solbakken's argument was much simpler. He saw the ball change direction. His eyes told him one thing. The technology told him something else. And FIFA expected everyone to trust the technology over what they believed they saw. That is where the frustration comes from. Now let's move to the second controversial moment, because by itself the cable incident could simply be explained as bad luck or a misunderstanding. But when you place it next to what happened shortly afterward, it created an even bigger debate. Around 10 minutes into the second half, Norway thought they had taken the lead again. Torbjørn Hagem found the back of the net from a corner, and the stadium exploded with excitement. But the celebration did not last long. VAR stepped in and ruled the goal out, deciding that Erling Haaland had committed a foul on Elliot Anderson during the build-up. And to be fair, there was contact. Haaland did push him. A two-handed shove that, under the stricter approach FIFA has taken towards set pieces during this tournament, can absolutely be called a foul. That decision can be defended, but that was not what created the anger. The problem was the difference in how the two situations were treated. One moment received a detailed review. The other barely received a second look. One observer watching the match explained the frustration perfectly. A corner kick push, something that happens repeatedly in almost every football match, was analysed frame by frame until VAR found enough evidence to cancel a goal. But a ball that appeared to change direction in the air before an England goal was not investigated in the same way. That contrast is what caused the outrage, because in the same match, VAR seemed willing to search for the smallest possible contact in one situation, while ignoring a completely different type of incident in another. One side received a microscope, the other side received no attention, and that is the bigger issue. It is not only about whether Haaland pushed Anderson, it is not only about whether the cable was touched. The real problem is that nobody watching knows what standard VAR is going to apply from one decision to the next. And when a system becomes impossible to predict, people naturally begin to lose trust in it. Some critics pointed out that this was another major England moment going their way during this tournament. But the discussion is bigger than England. It is about consistency. Because fans do not necessarily demand that every decision goes their way. They understand referees can make mistakes. They understand football has moments that are impossible to judge perfectly. What they want is a clear and consistent process. A process where similar situations are treated similarly. And right now, that is where VAR continues to struggle. To be fair, both controversial decisions can be defended when looked at individually. FIFA's ball technology did show no evidence of contact with the cable. And considering how sensitive the system is, there is a real possibility that the ball simply never touched it. Even refereeing experts have explained that VAR officials are not expected to search every possible camera angle in the stadium for something unusual happening high above the pitch. Officials also have to avoid turning every goal into an endless investigation. Sometimes too much technology can create its own problems. As for the Haaland incident, the rules are the rules. He did make contact. He did push Anderson. And if FIFA wants to punish physical battles during corners, then that decision follows the standard they have been applying. England supporters also have a fair argument. Bellingham's second goal had nothing to do with any controversy. It came from Norway's goalkeeper failing to hold a shot and Bellingham reacting faster than everyone else. His performance was outstanding. Even Haaland, despite having every reason to be frustrated, refused to describe the result as a robbery. He called it a close decision that went against Norway and admitted England were a strong team. Solbakken also said he could sit there and complain all night, but he would not. When the people most affected by a decision show restraint, everyone else should be careful before turning it into something bigger. And there is another detail that makes the idea of VAR simply favouring England much harder to prove. Because late in the match, England were actually on the wrong side of a major decision as well. They believed they had won a penalty when Jed Spence went down after a challenge from Oscar Bob. The referee immediately pointed to the spot. But then VAR stepped in. After reviewing the incident, the referee was sent to the monitor and the penalty decision was overturned. That was a huge call in the final stages of a World Cup knockout match. So the overall picture is not one of a referee trying to push one team through. It is a picture of officials making several complicated decisions that created confusion for everyone involved. And that is exactly why this debate continues. This is not the story of a planned result. It is the story of a system that still feels inconsistent. Because this is the part FIFA cannot avoid. The problem is not that the technology does not exist. The technology is incredible. The problem is how the people in charge decide when to use it, when to trust it, and when to ignore it. FIFA has presented VAR and its technology as the solution that would remove uncertainty from football. A ball that can detect the smallest touch. Cameras that can measure offside positions down to tiny margins. A system designed to bring complete accuracy. But then, in the biggest moments, fans are left confused. The same technology that can detect a tiny contact in one match cannot clearly explain whether a ball hit a large object in another. A goal can be cancelled because of a routine physical battle at a corner, while another potentially match-changing incident receives no full review. The technology itself may not be broken. The bigger issue is the inconsistency around how it is applied. The machine is not deciding the game. Human judgment is still deciding when the machine gets involved. And that is where trust disappears. This controversy arrives at the worst possible time for FIFA because confidence in officiating has already been damaged throughout this tournament. There have been controversial red cards, disputed decisions, and complaints from several teams about refereeing standards. So when another major debate appears, fans do not simply see one isolated mistake. They see another example added to a growing list. That is why the reaction has been so intense. People are no longer just arguing about one cable or one foul. They are questioning whether the entire system can actually deliver what it promised. You can see that frustration everywhere. Even reactions from people connected to Norway showed disappointment with the result and the decisions surrounding it. That is the reputation FIFA has built this summer. A tournament where the technology is among the most advanced in sports, but the way it is used still feels unpredictable. And when a decision that might actually be reasonable is made, many fans no longer accept it immediately because trust has already been damaged. There is a version of this story where people would have reacted even more aggressively if the same incident had helped another team. Social media would have exploded with theories and accusations. But the more realistic explanation is much less dramatic. This is not necessarily a conspiracy. It is a failure of consistency. Norway did not lose because of some hidden plan. They lost because England had Jude Bellingham producing another incredible performance, because their own goalkeeper made a costly mistake, and because the officiating system created moments of uncertainty that could have changed the entire match. And now we reach the final question. Where does everyone go from here? England are heading to Atlanta for a semi-final against Argentina. They have Bellingham. They have Kane. They have a genuine opportunity to win their first World Cup since 1966. But they also have concerns. Their players are exhausted. They struggled to control large parts of the match against Norway. And against a team like Argentina, those weaknesses could become much more dangerous. For Norway, the journey ends in heartbreak. They leave the tournament after creating the greatest World Cup run in their football history. A team that nobody expected to reach this stage made it all the way to the quarterfinals, powered by Haaland's goals and the belief that they belonged among the best. But their exit will always be connected to those two controversial moments. The cable incident, the disallowed goal, two decisions that, depending on who you ask, could have gone either way. And there is a painful final chapter for Erling Haaland as well. The player who carried Norway through much of this tournament, the man who scored more than half of their goals on the road to this stage, ended their biggest match looking strangely quiet. He had fewer touches than almost anyone on the pitch. Even Norway's goalkeeper saw more of the ball than he did. England's defenders kept him isolated. His teammates struggled to provide service, and eventually he was forced off during extra time. For a player who had announced himself as one of the biggest stars of this World Cup, it was a frustrating and emotional way to leave. And now FIFA faces another wave of the same question it has heard throughout the tournament. What is the purpose of having the most advanced refereeing technology ever created if supporters still cannot trust when and how it is being used? That is the heart of the debate. Do you believe FIFA's technology over what your own eyes saw? Was the ball really untouched by the camera cable? Or has VAR reached a point where nobody understands the rules of intervention anymore? That is the question everyone will continue arguing about. Because England move forward, Norway go home. Jude Bellingham continues his incredible tournament. And FIFA is once again forced to defend a system that was supposed to remove controversy but somehow keeps creating more of it. The semi-final against Argentina now waits. It could be the biggest match of the entire tournament. England have the talent. Argentina have the experience. And with everything that has happened so far, nobody can predict what drama is coming next. Make your opinion known. Was FIFA right to trust the technology, or did VAR fail Norway when it mattered most? Share your thoughts below, and stay tuned because this World Cup